It is Monday, August 4th, and this is Irish Illustrated Insider. I'm Tim O'Malley, joined today by Tim Priester and Drew Mentalk of Irish Illustrated. And guys, I have seen part of one practice. You've seen parts of two and all of one. But of course, nobody saw last night's practice inside Notre Dame Stadium except some officials, I'm told. And that's going to be the plan this month as Notre Dame prepares for its Sunday evening opener at Miami at the end of the month. But I think we've seen enough to form preliminary opinions that Tim Priester, I think you and I have said this a few years, that we reserve the right to change, right? As we see more and as we dig in a
Absolutely.
little deeper.
Had we been in attendance for that Sunday night practice, I think we would be able to offer a lot more opinions about starters and things like that. But no, I mean, yeah, we got full practice on Thursday. Drew and I were out there with JB and the focus, of course, on the quarterbacks. I know we have a bunch of questions, so I don't want to overdo it in segment one, and do want to talk more about our interviews with Chris Ash and especially Jaywan Sider because I find him very interesting and very informative too. But I want to reiterate. I think way too much is made of what the quarterbacks did, and that includes a Kenny Minchie interception as well. I think sometimes the attitude is that like we're pulling for one over the other. And that, I just happen to think that CJ Carr's upside is higher. And so, if that is not true and Notre Dame picks Kenny Minch as a starting quarterback, well, then the coaching staff knows better. But, it was fun kicking things around a little bit with the quarterbacks after Thursday. I think one thing that needs to be remembered when they're not in full pads and they're not going, 11 on 11, and you're going 7 on 7 or even 11 on 11 with no pads, when a quarterback drops back to pass, rather than just like take a sack and hold the ball, a lot of times they'll just throw it and see if somebody can make a play on the back end of a deep ball. So I think a little bit too much is read into that, but I get it. It's a quarterback battle, and there are some people cheering for one side and some for the other, and every tidbit that we throw out there is chewed up and spit out in a variety of different ways, so to speak.
Definitely. And I think we've, covered pretty extensively how, I mean, one of those CJ Carr interceptions was, a ball that, KK Smith probably should have caught and it got bowled up and Carson Hobbs made a nice play. But I also been thinking about it. If you're going to have a practice where you throw three interceptions in fall camp, you want it to be the first one too. He has time to bounce back. And I think, they view it as an opportunity. Like they want to see, I think I mentioned this before, but they want to see how you like struggle a little bit and how you bounce back. Like he might throw an interception in Miami, and how is he going to handle that? And I think those type of things are also opportunities for these guys to do it. And something else we've discussed a little bit too is just seeing CJ Carr kind of how he's starting to deal with his nerves. Like they're fine with him kind of during the stretch lines going over and starting to throw and really kind of get engaged and stuff. And I know there was some maybe concern on our board, but I also think so too. If you're calming yourself down by throwing the football and kind of getting out there and moving, that's probably a good sign for you being able to maybe calm your nerves down when you're in a game because that's what you're going to be doing too. And at least he's aware of how to handle it. Where it does sound like maybe Kenny Minchey is a guy who is just kind of always cool and calm, which is also a positive. But it is interesting to start seeing kind of how those two kind of differ in terms of how they handle these moments too.
I think it's interesting. Well, Drew, the number one time to throw three interceptions is when the media is not there. I would like to
True.
reiterate that. So practice number two might have been a little better when we left. But I think it's interesting that cool, even Kenny Minchey that we've heard about for now three preseasons. That's exactly how Gaduli described him. That's how Tommy Rees described him prior. All of a sudden, it's become, we used to be looked at it like, does he have enough fire? Is there enough? Does he want enough? Now it's like, oh well, he's obviously calm, cool, and collected because he's not as nervous as CJ Carr. So I think the narratives just start because it's early camp. I want to remind people this didn't apply to Riley Leonard, Jack Cohn, or Sam Hartman, but when there's a quarterback competition, the older guy takes day one. Drew Pine was ahead of Tyler Buckner, ahead, quote unquote.
Donovan Hinish
Yeah,
was number one ahead of the transfer.
yes, these are the older guys are lined up from if it's a competition. If it's not a competition, you're not going to have the senior quarterback ahead of your sophomore standout, of course. But that's how it starts out day one. And it's been that way. We just have forgotten because they aren't going to bother with that with Riley Leonard and Sam Hartman. There was no pretense of a real competition there, at least not with Riley Leonard. But yeah, listening to Guduli, reading what Gino said about someone said, when do you start caring that this happened in practice? He goes, I don't. It's practice. This is what practice is for. They have to learn from this and get better. So that goes to Drew's very salient point that practice 1 is the best time to do that, not practice 5 before Miami.
And you guys, you know what I'm talking about when they're, when it's not full contact and they drop back to pass and essentially a
Yeah.
passing drill. The quarterback's just sometimes just going to throw it, just as opposed to eating it, and then it's just a waste of 30 seconds with the snap of the football. I understand where Carr's coming from. Do you know who the intended receiver was on that first deep ball that Carr threw that was intercepted? Because if it was Malachi Fields, that's absolutely okay. Let's see if our big guy can go up in traffic and make a play. I'm not sure because there's so many moving parts and we're trying to watch so many different things that I'm not sure who that was that day. But
Yeah, I don't recall who it was. I mean, I remember there were two defenders a little closer to the ball, and saw them. But I agree. I actually think it probably would have been a sack in a game. Like, I don't think
yeah,
that's a ball he actually
yeah,
even gets away. And maybe he's more willing to throw it away if he's about to actually take a hit. But
That's
I think that,
that's a great point, guys, because Rezac, I guess there's a lot going on. I was watching Rezac and Buckner throw to running backs and tight ends because I had to be on that field. And you guys were over on the other field watching the starting 2 quarterbacks throw to wide receivers. I'm like, how did I miss that during the practice? But I stayed on my field. Rezac hit Jabron Payne for a bomb over Kingston Viliamuasa.
Payne's a frequent target in the
Yeah,
passing game.
but I heard Max Bulla. I know he did it on purpose, running off the field. Kingston, it was a sack. Kingston, that was a sack. Don't worry. In other words, like I think King was going to jump the route because it would have been a sack in real life. So he was trying to point that out. And Tim, you make not to belabor this at all, but in drills you have to throw it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's also a wide receiver defensive back drill. You're not the only guy
Right.
involved.
No,
In this.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And if it's Malachi Fields or Will Pauling, they've thrown to him during the summer when it's, nothing's organized, and you got to see what a guy does. Again, I like not making excuses because Carr got picked twice, and the third one it's not even worth considering. The one off KK Smith, he got picked twice, and Minchie was picked once, but I thought Carr made more plays downfield. So I mean, it was a balancing act. Like I have all the respect in the world for Kenny Minchie and what he showed us in the spring. And you're right, Tip. I mean, that calm, cool, in the past may have been, and additionally, the guy, he hasn't transferred. So what? Doesn't care? He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
going to get his
There's so many
Yeah.
ways of
That's
looking at
that's
this.
an
It's
attitude
ridiculous. Yeah.
that you hear or think may be in play, and I don't think that's accurate.
That will.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
Oh, and I agree. I don't want to defend Carr too much, but I think even just watching one-on-ones on Saturday, I mean, that's another situation where you have to throw it no matter how well covered the guy is. And I think there are a couple early ones that he threw. Like there's one I think to Michael Gilbert where he was clearly covered, but he threw it like he was running down the sidelines the route, and I think Carr put it on like the lower back shoulder where like Gilbert was the only one who can make a play on that. Like I think we see a lot of those type of throws where if he's going to try and fit it into a tight window, that's more characteristic where he kind of is pretty good about putting it where only his guy makes a play. And so I think that's more encouraging to see. I don't know that the multiple interception thing is like a characteristic I really see out of him because he is so accurate and I think does generally make pretty good decisions in other instances we've seen so far.
Saturday, we talked to 2 guys that signed up for some pretty good gigs in the off season that they walk into in Chris Ash and Jaywan Sider. I mean, when Chris Ash has the second best room out of the 2 guys, you know you're doing well because that was one of the top defenses in the country last year and they return a lot. But I really enjoyed Sider. I want to go to you here first, Tim, because I know you want to talk about Jaywan Sider. He's second straight running backs coach that is obviously confident in what he can bring to the situation. But I think he just there aren't many guys that can come in after Dylan McCullough and command respect, and it's pretty obvious Sider does.
Yeah, no doubt. I find him to be a really, really interesting guy. Everything that he said, we talked a little bit about in the instant analysis about the idea of slow to mesh and fast to the hole. That was a Jadarian Price issue. He wanted to play, he was speeded up before it was time to really speed up, and so he's try to teach him that. And, I thought he said some great things about Kedron Young too, about, not only can he run through you, which we say all the time, but he says he can run around you. And I don't know that we've necessarily seen that, but he sees it. I mean, he wouldn't say it
Yeah.
if he didn't see that. And so, I think that's interesting. And also just the whole concept of the running backs understanding the fronts and the pass protections in particular, because you have young quarterbacks and somebody like, Price and Love that have been around for a while, they need to help the young quarterback set protections or recognize where pressure may be coming pre-snap. And so those are some of the things that I think Sider has taken the knowledge of this running back core, partly because they're a year older now than they were last year, but I think that that's what Sider's all about, is making sure that they're well-rounded backs. And I like that. I like that about him. I find him interesting every time we speak with him.
Yeah, I agree. To your point, I think he's kind of the ideal, especially for Love and Price. He's kind of great for that maybe graduate level understanding of what they're
Yeah.
going to need at this point. That maybe McCullough, for as great as he was and as well as he developed that room, like maybe because I mean, Sider played quarterback in
Exactly.
college. Like he has
Exactly.
the more extensive knowledge of the other aspects of the defense and what to look for. And I think he's really helping develop. And even speaking with Price, he's the one who kind of brought it up that he felt like he was too frantic last year and how Sider's helping him understand these other things. I think it kind of seemed like he helped that click a little better. Like maybe before he's like, why would I can bounce it out and I see it outside and I see like an opening. It makes sense to do that. But maybe now they're like, well, if you let this develop, here's how this is going to happen. And maybe Price, who's a, a pretty intelligent dude, is like, okay, this makes sense to me. Now I understand why to be patient. And maybe that makes it a little easy for his mentality to do so.
We have a running backs question where I think we can get back into this a little bit. It's going to be fun at the end because I have some thoughts on it. They're not all going to be happy. That's my number one thought right there. But I really find it interesting, and especially with Jadarian Price and the roles that he has to improve on one role if he's going to the NFL, and that's pass protection, because they just flat out had to start taking him off the field last year. And Jabron Payne was good at it, and he's back. Jeremiah Love's an animal, and they trusted Aeneas Williams. He didn't score well on Pro Football Focus, but I also don't remember Aeneas Williams having problems in his pass protection.
No, I
And
don't
they
either.
kept him in there the whole season, so he must have been
Hey,
okay because they were in the championship game. But
another concept that was talked about, Aeneas Williams said it to me, and then I believe it was Sider that said it. I don't think we didn't mention this in the instant analysis after practice, but they're no, I know, or was it Guaduli? They're doing more two back,
yeah, yeah,
and
that's interesting. I read that.
you know, okay, so so definitely one tight end on the field, I guess, and there's so many things you can do with Jeremiah Love in the passing game now. And that was one of the reasons why, Jeremiah Love, when Sider asked them to, okay, give me a list of things that you want to improve upon. For Jeremiah Love, it was, understanding coverages because he's going to be running against them at times. So the two back concept is interesting, and really, if you have Love and Price on the field at the same time, two absolutely dynamic breakaway athletes on the field. I realize that that's what wideouts are supposed to be as well, but I think a defense, designing their coverages with two backs on the field isn't something that has to be done a whole lot in today's game. So I thought that was interesting. Aeneas was that was the first I heard it when Aeneas Williams said it to when I was speaking with him.
Drew Chris Ash, I thought was more comfortable with the media. He was joking around a lot with us
Yeah.
this time. I thought he had a really good interview actually. When I think, well, I'm pretty sure Drew, you were the one that asked you. Marcus Freeman says this is your defense, and of course he's like, well, yeah, of course he says that. If something goes wrong, it's my fault. And I
Yeah.
thought only a guy comfortable in his skin can say that, and he also has quite a few guys he can lean on.
Yeah, I agree. When he said that, I was like, well, you must not, you're comfortable that Marcus Freeman's not going to take that the
Yeah,
wrong way, which you
right.
wouldn't say otherwise. So I agree. It's impressive. And I really, because he says the right thing so often that I felt like I really needed to bring that quote, like Marcus Freeman is saying, like, you're putting your own spin on that. And then he kind of, deflected. I think he's very clear. He's not going to give anything away. I think he has a little bit of Al Golden in him in
Yeah.
that regard. I think I believe somebody asked him about Botello and if he was ahead of schedule. Maybe it was you, O'Malley, and he was like, I don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't tell
I
you.
wouldn't
Like
tell you.
he's
It's Sean
he's gonna keep
Stires, yeah.
okay, keep a lot to the vest, just like Golden did with a lot of that stuff. But I agree, he's getting more comfortable, and I think no matter what he says, I think he's definitely going to put his own spin on this defense, and we'll kind of see what that's like. But that might be a good thing for Miami because they, there's some new things they're not going to be able to expect. So it'll
Yeah,
be interesting.
he doesn't reveal a lot. Whereas I feel like coming out of it, maybe I didn't take the well, Tim, you got some thoughts on that. Cider to me, like everything is when he says something, it's like a new concept that I haven't heard before. Ash is to me seems a lot more guarded in his commentary.
It's funny. I think Clark might be the only defensive coordinator that really wasn't, because Marcus was guarded. Mike Elston was guarded. Mike Elston actually said, I don't like to share information. I like to get information." I mean, Al Golden was guarded there. Elko, I don't recall enough, but I have a feeling Mike Elko was not sharing a ton with us in his 1 year with Notre Dame. It might be a defensive coordinator thing. Geez, Bob Diaco. He couldn't be more guarded. You got to know him, and he still didn't tell you anything, Tim. So I think it might be a defensive coordinator trait. And actually, that should be good. I don't think defensive coordinators should probably reveal a whole heck of a lot. Today is the day where Bruce Feldman from The Athletic revealed his Feldman's Freaks list. 2 Notre Dame players are on it. A third was mentioned. And I believe 9 Irish opponents, led by 3 from Pittsburgh guys, are on the Freaks list. And before I turn this one over to you guys, I want to point out Jeremiah Love is not on the list because Jeremiah Love did not test as much in the summer. Pete Sampson brought this up on Twitter. These are numbers. This has nothing to do with Jeremiah Love being a guy that hurdles people. These are numbers that came from strength coaches that go to Feldman. He makes the list. Jeremiah Love's summer was about, quote, recovery and recuperation, not testing. So he did not, like, be a bunch of Notre Dame guys did not test because it's probably that list Rob Hunt gave, or guys are recovering. They don't
Oh
have to
yeah,
go through the testing list. But
right.
Bryce Young, to no surprise, was on the list. And if you've been paying attention, Drew Mentuck, Eli Raridon, also on the list. But we kind of watched some basketball highlights of him and thought he might have been on there once he was healthy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Bryce Young, I mean, makes a ton of sense. I think he notes a 34 inch for 34.5 inch vertical. Like that's, I mean, if you think about it, 6'7" too, like that's pretty incredible. I don't think we're any surprise in why he blocked so many punts last year. And I mean, to do it still at up to 273 pounds now. I think it's Raridan. I mean, I asked, interesting with Raridan, like I asked him, like, how do you feel? Like we saw you taking screen passes 40 yards in the spring. Like, do you feel more explosive? And he was like, yes, this is the best I've felt since I've been here. And I think, I mean, he went through back-to-back ACL injuries, and I think maybe sometimes we see guys come back from those so much quicker. But I think athletically, we're really starting to see him look more like he was in high school, where he was, I mean, just tomahawking, dunking on guys and basketball, as you pointed out, O'Malley, and running away from people. And I think this is an encouraging sign, and also something the coaching staff wouldn't really, because this is Rob Hunt or athletic trainers putting this information out there, and they're not going to do it if they don't want him to, like, to show that he's being more athletic and stuff too.
One of our subscribers, somebody posted the freaks list or started a thread on it on the Irish Illustrated message board, and somebody said this list is kind of weird, and it kind of is because it covers so much ground. I mean, it could be numbers in the weight room. I mean, look, Bruce Feldman does a great job with it. It garners interest every year,
Oh yeah, people like the
but I'm not sure how actually accurate it is when coming up with the most freakish players in the country. But some of the guys on, I mean, I think Eli Raridon absolutely fits it. We talk about every time we sat down with him over the weekend, and he does have a freakish frame and body that he brings to the football field that's impressive. Among the guys, Tim, you listed some guys that will be playing against Notre Dame. Not all of these guys are on my radar, and I looked at these teams through the summer, but certainly Robinson, the nose tackle at Navy, everybody talks about him being a freak. So he's somebody that's a great matchup against Ashton Craig and Notre Dame's interior offensive line. Francis Mauigoa from Miami is probably a first round draft pick as an offensive tackle. So I get him. Love Kyle Lewis, the linebacker from Pittsburgh, which to me, if you take Notre Dame starting linebacking crew and Pittsburgh starting linebacking crew, I think it's virtually identical in terms of ability. Notre Dame's a little bit deeper, so that's why we had them ahead of Pittsburgh's linebackers on our first rate series. But USC, the defensive lineman from USC, I mean, not really Abasiri. I'm not, he's really not on my radar. I'm sure when they come up on the schedule, I'll be very much more familiar with them as the season progresses. But it's fun. He has a good
Yeah.
time with it, but it is a little bit quirky because what exactly is the criteria? It's a little bit floating.
Well, I think it's all weight room testing and combine testing. The thing is, we don't understand every like. I will always know what a fast 40 time is. I won't always know. People don't always know what a quick shuttle time is. That
Right.
you can see the number
Yeah.
and not know. I do know that when you say somebody's power was nearly 10,000 watts, 1,000 more than the closest player on the team, that sounds like he's really strong.
Yeah.
I can I
Yeah.
can go ahead and figure out that is a strong human being.
That's Mawago,
Yeah.
the offensive lineman from Miami.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, a couple years ago, Notre Dame including how many pull-ups the guys did, and I always took a little bit of issue with that because, I mean, I think at Riley Mills did like 33 pull-ups, which for a guy of his size, like
Oh,
the strongman competition guys can't do that. So I was
Yeah.
like, but then you're getting into form and like, is he, I don't know. Like I always think like we don't know entirely what that means, so it's hard to really evaluate how impressive that is because if he's like fully extending, like that's incredible. But
Right. Yeah, that's true. If you think about a full extension from Riley Mills doing 5 pull-ups,
yeah, like just incredible. So I think it's important to take this a grain of salt. And I mean, Bruce Feldman's just going with all this information from all these different
yeah.
people. So I still think it's interesting. Kyle Lewis jumped out at me because sometimes you see a guy from maybe not a huge program be so productive like that. You think like, well, he's just a good football player. But to see that he has some of the explosiveness and other things to match up, I think he had 15 and a half tackles for loss last year.
yeah,
Like
he's
to see that
excellent.
he matches he has the athleticism to go along with the proven production is why he's in all these preseason All-American lists.
And vertical leap is always something fun. We can always relate to vertical leap from basketball when you see Kyle Hamilton. Did you guys see my note on the board? I might have been in Italy at the time that I heard Logan Saldate had the highest vertical on the team at 41 and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, that was information from
And I thought
someone in Chicago. So
we
that's
we weren't like when we saw him in the spring, we didn't come out of the spring. I thought he looked pretty good the other day, Thursday. I mean, for what it's worth. If he has a 41 and a half vertical, that's freakish.
yes. We'll be back with segment 2, burning up the boards.
One. Segment 2, burning up the boards. First question from CMU Pens fan. When was the last time Notre Dame had to break in a totally unproven quarterback on the road in a season opener?
I mean, I think Tyler Buckner counts in 2022 at Ohio State. I guess he had played a
Red
little
zone
bit.
stuff.
I mean, he was a package guy. He played a half at Virginia Tech the year before, but this is pretty. Tyler Buckner counts considering it was at Ohio State. I mean, that was the talk of camp. Tyler Buckner at Ohio State. Jimmy Clausen's first start. It was not game 1, but it was game 2, and it was at Penn State in a whiteout.
Yikes. That didn't go
With the
well.
worst line in Notre Dame history blocking for him. So he had he didn't probably have a fair shot at that one. And I look back, and Tim and I were trying to figure this out. Carlisle Holiday was a neutral site game against Maryland. They scored 22 points, none on offense. We should probably point that out, of course, and or no touchdowns, I should say. Kevin McDougal had one game against Northwestern. It was only okay at home, and then he had to go to Michigan, and they upset Michigan. And I've never seen a quarterback play better in his like what I consider his debut than that game against Michigan.
You
So
know who was as surprised as we were that he played as well as he did?
Lou,
Yeah.
oh really? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
shocked. He looked like Randall Cunningham. He was incredible. It was absolutely amazing.
like we didn't think he was a runner, and he's
Yeah,
sprinting downfield.
yeah. Well, they were big
Yeah.
underdogs. They're
Great.
like 9 point underdogs.
Kevin McDougal's one of the great Notre Dame quarterback stories. Just
Yes. Yeah.
fantastic.
And then Paulus was a neutral site against Northwestern. I don't think that counts.
Yeah, I was looking more for true road
Yeah. Yeah.
games, and you get a lot of the neutral site stuff.
Right. Right. I mean, they've had a lot of experienced quarterbacks. That's part of what's going on here. I was like, even Malik would have been an interesting one, but I feel like Zaire, they killed Texas. Even that had that been on the road, he was like the MVP of the previous bowl game. You kind of knew he
Right.
was going to be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That is very different from what you're looking at with these
Yeah.
guys. So
I think it is almost more indicative that Notre Dame's just more recently has started with really tough road games.
Yeah,
Even if
that's
it's,
true.
I mean, Navy in Ireland is the you know easiest thing they've
Yeah.
had to deal with since Freeman became head coach, I think. So, I mean, not the ideal. You would rather that not be whoever it is first start, obviously, but you're going to find out a lot about them. And I think it's important that, we'd ask them a bunch on Saturday or Friday, like, when do you want a decision to be made? And I think Minchie was like, as long as it's before Miami, I'm fine. But realistically, there's a degree where you want this to get decided because you are breaking somebody in for a pretty tough atmosphere to start off their career.
Yeah. I was one of five guys in a room interviewing Pete Bavacqua last week, and I on my list, one of our subscribers asked about, can you ask him about when the heck is Notre Dame going to start at home instead of going on the road and playing these big time? And we just didn't get to it. So I don't have an answer for that. But these starting games on the road at Miami and Texas A&M and Ohio State, these
I
are,
mean, Florida State was supposed to could have been better too. Well, 2 years
So
later, that'd have been
true.
a problem. That was,
yeah.
that just randomly worked out that they were that good. And that was not a walk in the park either. That was quite a night. We had a double two-parter here, which is good because there's a flip side to it. Irish Cheesehead won. Now that there have been a few practices, who has been your biggest surprise? Any predictions on who might work their way into starting or even two deep roles? It sounds like Tay Johnson is getting to the point where it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And then Maltese Irish asks, my favorite part of these questions. On the flip side, is there anyone you expected to stand out that has been quiet thus far? We can't say unimpressive because we haven't seen enough to say unimpressive.
Yeah. Drew, go ahead.
I mean, I think I noticed this in my practice report, but I think that day one when, Notre Dame was running two spots, so they had, some of the third or fourth stringers, however you want to look at it, on the other field scrimmaging, but they still had Dallas Golden, Cree Thomas, and Mark Zachary over with the second team when they know they could have gotten a look at them anyway. Two of those guys, Dallas Golden and Zachary, are summer enrollees. So that's really the first real look they were getting at them, and they felt confident enough, like we want to put these guys in the two deep to start. And I think especially Dallas Golden, like he looks great. Like I think I see why there was so much hype on him and why they'd want him on defense. Like he has pretty good size already, and I'm definitely intrigued to see how he develops. Zachary was a little smaller. Like there's one point where Malachi Fields blocked him, and just the size discrepancy on the type of player he could go against this year. Like, well, I could see why that might be a challenge, but I think seeing Cree Thomas is also like good, but seeing those three guys in the rotation, like it's clear that at least one or two of those guys they're thinking might have a chance to be part of that really talented secondary this fall.
I think that's a good one, Drew. I mean, Cree Thomas, I thought impressed in the spring and still continues to impress. Tay Johnson was great the other day. I mean, there's no doubt that physically he has, and like maybe instinctually he has some gifts that a lot of guys don't. Now, does he understand the big picture of defense? I'm not sure that that's true. And so the talk about him like breaking into the starting lineup, I think is premature. It starts with, I mean, natural playmaking ability. That's a great thing to have, but there's so much for young DBs to know now, young safeties. I'm not sure that he's threatening to start. And let's be realistic here. We saw one practice on Thursday. It wasn't in pads. And what we saw on Friday and Saturday, there's nothing there to determine depth chart. Like,
No,
how
no,
do the
not
how do
yet.
the quarterbacks look? Well, they were throwing, unencumbered passes to wide receivers and student managers and Gino Gaduli. So, I mean, we just, so we really just saw that one practice and the flip side for me, I didn't think Ty Washington, he didn't look as big as I anticipated him to be. He was unattached as opposed to attached a good portion of the time. And I think we mentioned that, there was a time where after a play, he didn't widen his pass route enough, and CJ Carr kind of emphatically motioned to him that you need to get out there so I can get you the football. But I mean, I totally understand these questions, and that's why Tim includes them. They're good questions. But I don't want to commit to too much based upon what we saw. We're not going to see anything of real note moving forward. We'll have a couple more opportunities to get out there and see, but it's the first four periods, and you're not seeing anything depth chart wise there.
this goes to the Tay Johnson comment too, but Jadon Blair is an impressive player. He when we hit November, the Tay Johnson discussion I think could be there. Can Tay Johnson be trusted back there where he is the second safety, or October maybe? I'd be surprised if Tay Johnson is day one next to a Don Schuler. That would be a high level of consistency, and I mean, it's pretty clear that's what's holding him back a little bit is consistency. Chris Ash said it. He has said it in the spring. I don't think it's Marcus Freeman has said it. And that's just the way it works. He didn't play enough last year. And remember, he played corner last year when he came back. They need him at boundary corner, which is going to help his growth completely over the long haul. But Tay Johnson will one day be intercepting passes for Notre Dame. I think it'll be this year. I don't anticipate Jadon Blair or Tay Johnson being the guy at Miami next to Don Schuler. I just feel like their D is so sound and so good. And that's why I asked Ash this question. You don't want the one mental mistake to be strike up the band, and that's what happens at safety. So I feel like that's just a little different. God, those guys look like athletes.
Yeah.
Holy
Drew, you
smokes.
mentioned, and I had the same thought, that Jalen Stroman didn't necessarily do anything on Thursday that really stood out to us. But again, I mean, that would be my answer to the question, but I think it's a little bit unfair to make a determination that Jalen Stroman, oh, okay, he's not going to help them.
Right.
He just did. I don't think he stood out and made a play the way Tay Johnson, whether he understands the damn defense or not. Those plays were, I said Kyle Hamilton, Spider-Man is who he looked like.
Yeah, I
on
agree. I mean,
Thursday.
he could have been in, the right place and being all there, but it's hard when, I mean, you look at the other three safeties that were rotating in, like just physically what he brings to the table. He's a definitely like a hard-nosed kind of long player, but I mean, there's some pretty freak athletes that he's playing alongside, and what's most important is that he's understanding the defense and getting to the right positions and not blowing this coverage like you mentioned. But you kind of forgot he was out there comparatively.
Yeah. I have one to throw in there because it's a practice report. It's going to be internet fodder forever. But the worst rep, and this is not my opinion, this is assistant defensive line coach Javon Codlin's opinion, and he does not hold back on his opinions. He is fun to listen to. There's some Joe Rudolph and Harry Heastand rolled into this one when he's talking. Bryce Young is the worst rep of all time, and he destroyed Bryce Young for it on the spot. It was, I mean, he literally told him with more colorful language how bad the rep was, and then followed up right after that was a true freshman who did it properly, and that did not help Bryce Young at all either when Codlin just said to keep going. Obviously, we love Bryce Young. He's a conscientious person, but that's consistency is involved in football and football practice, and he got laid into.
That is one animated assistant defensive line coach. That dude's hopping around during flex. He is so excited to be out there coaching Notre Dame football. That's a great find there.
Oh yeah, it was. I looked over and it was funny because he changed numbers, Young. So I'm like, who is that? That guy's huge. It was Bryce Young, but he wasn't number 30 anymore. So that's happening.
I did get a Joe Rudolph commentary on Styles Prescott that was. He said 3 words. The first one was terrible. The second one was terrible, and the third one was terrible.
But not the actual word "terrible" is what you're saying.
No. He said terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah, it was a bad rep for Prescott. Who's trying to find his niche with Notre Dame's offensive line.
Speaking of safeties, and I don't think we need to belabor this one, but the defense from Philafel, the defense has recruited and signed taller, longer safeties the last couple of years. What are the positive and negatives of having this type of player in the defensive backfield? Then he wants to know if Blair can push for playing time. There's a lot of positives for having that.
Yeah, I don't think there are any negatives because if you're so tall that you can't play safety, they move you up a notch.
Yeah.
So, they wouldn't, Jadon Blair wouldn't be at safety if he wasn't very mobile, and he is very mobile. Luke Tellitz is 6'4". So, I mean, they do have size back there. Don Schuler is their best safety right now. And so he's back there at 6'0". But yeah, I mean, there's Ethan Long 6'3". I don't think he's ready to push for playing time. But yeah, there's no doubt. Mike Mickens likes size at corner and probably likes it at safety too. But you've got to be a good enough athlete to play back there. And if you aren't, then you move up to linebacker, or maybe somebody off the edge, like Preston Zinter has moved into a role like that.
Yeah, I think another advantage too is if you're, a safety and you have to come up to like, cover a tight end or something. And Mickens loves, like you said, like using length and getting leverage on guys and stuff like that. And they're certainly better able to do that. I agree. I don't see a lot of negatives. Even Talich, he's a walk-on, but he still ran a 10.7 second 100-meter dash in high school. Like he's an athlete. Like they're not getting tall guys out there just to stick them back way deep for jump balls. Like these guys are all physically gifted.
Very quickly, receivers are not getting shorter either. There's a reason you
No,
need.
they're not. And I don't, you're right, Drew. He came in as a walk-on, but I've never considered Telich to really be a walk-on. He walked on at Notre Dame knowing he was going to be a scholarship player.
Yeah.
So he's legit.
Next question from Murph JD. I don't want to obsess over the QB situation, but he's about to right here. But I'm curious if you guys see any drawback to this competition going on aside from just getting the starter as many first team reps as possible. In other words, we've seen it recently at ND where that can lead to some negative impact on the team culture. Unless it is clear one guy earned it over the other, some guys, and I think he means receivers, are going to feel their guy was cheated in the end. I'm not trying to create a problem. I just see an issue developing if the coaching staff does not play this right.
I don't see it that way. I mean, when it was Kaiser Zaire,
That's the only time it's been a bad situation, right? I don't remember any
yeah, and the
bad
head coach
situation.
allowed it to be a bad
Yeah,
situation or exacerbated it
right.
into a bad situation. I don't see that here. I mean, if Kenny Minchie was maybe a big personality that everybody gravitated to, but he's not necessarily that guy, I don't think. Although I certainly enjoyed the interview with him the
Mhm.
other day. He's a great kid. Um, I don't know. Drew, do you see some issues there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's because I think they're handling it well. Like they are being very transparent. They go over like what the expectations are, what the grading are. Like Marcus Freeman's very clear. Like I have to look at the tape because after the first day, I don't know if 3 interceptions means that was or 4 interceptions means that was 4 bad decisions. We're not results based. We're looking at did you do the right things? And I think as long as they're really being transparent, which I think this coaching staff is, and what the expectations are, then they can avoid some of those potential culture hits. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone on the team knows they have to name a starting quarterback. Maybe it's close, but they can't just say, well, it's close. We're just going to go into week 3 and not know who's starting. So people understand there's a decision and that this is a competition and they can go from there. But I don't think the coaching staff is handling it in a way, nor do I think, as you said, TP, that these guys have such big egos that it's going to create an issue for whoever loses the job.
And this isn't like they're going to make a decision. Tim, when do you think? By the end of this week? By Sunday, when they
So Sunday will be the 10th. I don't think they need to yet, probably, right? I mean, I would have said that 100% they would have done that before this camp started. It does seem like it's more, it seems like it's closer than we guessed. I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
And I don't want to talk negatively about Kenny Minchie. I just happen to think that
Into the following week, Tim. I think you're going the 18th
you think. I mean,
range.
I don't disagree
Yeah,
with you. Well, it'll go the 18th if it's not clear cut. If it's clear
yeah,
cut
yeah.
at the end of, by Sunday, because
That's
that's
true.
when,
Sunday, I'm sure
yeah,
Sunday gives them at least 2 main huge practices with officials in a stadium setting, and that is probably when you separate yourself a little bit more than, you know, because Tay Johnson jumps some
right.
routes on day one.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it won't go beyond 2 weeks before the game.
No.
yeah, I agree. I think the 18th is like a pretty good cutoff point, and if they don't, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to that either. So
ND Squid 23. Of these position groups, which one are you most confident can play at an elite or playoff caliber level this year? And he wants to know offensive line, receiver, defensive line, linebacker, and secondary. This is easy for me.
The 1 through 5 is easy for you, or
No,
what's
but I mean,
the best?
I know which ones can play at an elite playoff caliber level. I know 3 of them can.
Well, you're talking about DBs, and that was my dilemma because I know the linebackers can too,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure. Like we haven't seen Luke Telich do it,
there's too many
whereas
guys available.
whereas we've seen
Yeah.
all the linebackers
Oh,
do it.
that's true. That's a good
So
pick.
that's why I'd put LB1, but I think DBs is 1A. Then I'd go offensive line, just you don't because mesh with the offensive line, even you love these guys, even with Sullivan Absher out there. I mean, it's certain size wise, performance wise, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of a difference than it would have been with Jagus, although Jagus
I
has
don't know. I feel
yeah,
like,
he's got a huge upside. I get that.
yeah, the Penn
Uh,
State game for me with Jagus, that was just
yeah.
eye-opening that he was able to come in and do that.
And then I have wide receiver 4, and I've got D line 5, which kind of scares me that I have D line 5. I just don't know. I like just absolute proven
Right. Well,
interior defensive lineman. I think I probably feel the best about Rubio because I thought Rubio did a lot of good things last year.
Drew, we talked about this offline because I missed the Thursday practice, and then you guys mentioned Jared Dawson had a couple nice plays, and Drew pointed out he didn't really start much at Louisville. I was like, well, he fits right in because none of these guys have started much in college football, so that's got to be the least proven one.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had secondary first, but otherwise my order was the same. I think, yeah, the defense line, I mean, you feel good about the potential of what the edge rushers can do. And, Boubacar Traore has looked good. Bryce Young, I mean, there's a lot to like other than the one rep you saw O'Malley.
There's a lot more to like than that one
you
rep.
know, Joshua Burnham, I mean, he just looks even more yoked up than before. Like, I think there's a lot of potential there, but the defensive interior is unproven. And I liked what I've seen from the wide receiver so far. Like, I mean, Malachi Fields does give them the most proven receiver they've probably had in a while. And if you look at Will Pauling, I know he did down year last year, but he actually had a more productive season in terms of yards than Malachi Fields did 2 years ago. So you have some guys that have put up 800-yard seasons, and they really haven't had that in a while.
And we skipped a question there. I'm going to bounce back up to that one, but you want to finish the thought on that?
Yeah, and then also we didn't mention Jaden Greathouse, who was the all Notre Dame's best player in the last two games of the season. Those two games were pretty big deals too. Penn State and Ohio
I
State.
mean, massive. Really, really high hopes for him. My only thing is, from the first 3 games of his freshman year until the Penn State game, they're like,
One touchdown.
how many? Yeah, I mean,
One
he was
touchdown
he was just
after
an
that.
average
Yeah.
receiver for about a season and a half
Yeah, we took a
in
little bit on the
between.
chin for our ranking on Greathouse. We had him 14th. You
Whatever,
can't only remember his last two games, man. Notre Dame has other good players, right? I mean, like you're just trying to tell me that you're not putting these linebackers ahead of him.
we can't win on that top
Drake Bowen
15.
and Don
Because
Schuler, these guys
yeah,
are ahead of him.
we can't win on that top 15. Because there's so many good players, and B,
Right.
like there was question we had Christian Gray was 16th. Okay, well, what if we put CJ Carr at 16? Well, there would be the faction be saying, well, he's going to have a much better year than that. So we can't win on that. And the reason we can't win is because they have so many damn good football
Yeah.
players.
Yeah. You're going to bounce back.
Anyway, yeah, I was going to bounce back to Club Fred 90. Could you guys envision a scenario where Kenny Minchie starts at Miami and possibly the Texas A&M game because of his running ability, and then Carr starts the remainder of the season, similar to 2018? That was done for 2018 was different reasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
The only way I would see that is if Minchie wins the job and then does poorly in those 2 games. I can't see them going in with a plan that like
Then I can see
Minchie,
it.
you're getting these 2 games, but Carr, you'll get it after. That's not something that we consider. I don't think that would be good for Minchie's psyche either. Like, oh, you didn't really win the job, but we just want to kind of, I don't know, abuse you by using your legs a lot for these 2 games, and then we're gonna go with our guy.
Carr's going to look good against Purdue, man.
Yeah.
They're
So,
supposed to.
Coaching staffs don't do stuff like that.
So this question that was asked because they did once. It was odd though, as you pointed out. Chip Long said, I want Ian Book to start. Brian Kelly very wisely said, not in the opener against Michigan. It's going to be a dogfight. Brandon Wimbush is going to get us through Michigan. And then I'm not clear if it was supposed to go straight to Book or not. But at some point, Brian Kelly, after the Vanderbilt game, because
After Vandy, yeah.
Wimbush played terribly against Ball State along with the rest of the team, and he played not great against Vandy, and they could have lost. At that point, they had to go to Book. But I think this was more along the lines of Brandon Wimbush has started 13 games. I know he can run the ball. We're going to beat Michigan, 23-20. It was 24-17. And then at that point, you need to go to I get the question, because then at that point, you had to go to what makes your offense better was Ian Book. But I just think Wimbush is so much different than either one of those two guys in terms of you knew he wasn't going to choke in that game. He was going to come out and play football, and he had the best passes of his life in the first quarter of that game, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Chip Long was adamant about that.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of people don't like Brian Kelly, but a lot of head coaches wouldn't have just let him wouldn't have just say, okay,
yeah, I
let's
was
go
wrong.
for it.
Yeah. But he
But he
was right
did.
first before he was wrong. That Michigan call was very important. I
Yeah,
mean,
no doubt.
that was the way to go.
We have a question from Dallas District 5. The defensive line rotation appears pretty locked in. He mentions all the guys. You guys know who the defensive line rotation is. Outside of that core eight, who comes next? And he lists Mookum, Hughes, Sevillano, Logan Thomas, Cole Mullins, Preston Zinter.
At this point in time, I would put Mookum up next. I mean, we talked about like we still need to see a little bit more out of these interior defensive line. He was also out there on Thursday. They were giving him reps with the, second teamer against the other second team on the field that we were watching. So, and he's gotten bigger. We've seen him kind of be on the just slightly outside of that rotation previously. I also think Logan Thomas is a guy they like. I know he still needs to add some physical size and things like that, but he also was, out there on Thursday with the twos, and he brings a lot of traits that are impressive, and he's kind of a different change up from guys like Joshua Burnham and even Junior Tuialamaka, where he can kind of get off the edge and rush the passer.
My call is Thomas because of what you said. Also, there's no Botello, so there's an opening there. And Boubacar Traore in game one is not Boubacar Traore in game 5 or 6. I don't care. He looks amazing on the practice field, by the way. I ranked him. I ranked him the lowest. He's coming up this week. I ranked him the lowest because of Mitch Evans. Nothing to do with Boubacar Traore. I know how long it takes to get back from these things, from watching this happen every single year when they say he's full go, he's ready to go. Yes, he's totally cleared, and then he plays 10 snaps. So I think Logan Thomas gets the first chance because of that. I hope Mookum does too, because we were all aboard that Mookum train last year, and he got 2 snaps that matter during the season or something along those lines. But boy, he looks the part for a reserve lineman. And guys, it's going to be hot in Miami and Texas A&M. You got to rotate those interior guys quite a bit.
No doubt. Well, I mean, Tuesday again, they two spotted. So the guys on the number one field, so to speak, were Logan Thomas, who I know L. Washington talked to him extensively about him a couple days before the Sugar Bowl. Loves him. Still not that big yet, but you can't force that. And then, Mookum. I mean, Mookum was with the big boys and getting snaps, and would really love to see him start stepping forward. He's a big dude. He's a guy with a lot of ability. He's come a long way. I'm not sure that when he came out of high school, I didn't necessarily expect that we would be talking about Mookum even at this point in his third year. But I think it's Thomas and Mookum, and I still have high hopes for, I think Hughes probably started over on field number 2 because he's a transfer and new to it. And I know Dawson started on the first field, but I mean, he's definitely in the rotation, and it's undetermined with Hughes. So I think that's why he was put over on the other field to get the reps. But I still think that he can be a factor here in pushing for number 2 reps. Sevillano, I love his at his size, his quickness is really, really special. I just think his time comes next year. Unless you have a rash of injuries on the inside, then you have to bump him up. Cole Mullins, everybody knows I love Cole Mullins. I think he's a year away. I think it's more of a strong side end. I think he's a very productive football player. And then Zinter, we just haven't seen enough of him to know, but he was over on field number 2 the other day as well.
Oh, well, actually, he'll play the most because he's going to play special teams on.
He will. He will.
So he will actually play the most. Cole Mullins, I like Cole Mullins too. I bet he was not set back a little bit by missing. Remember, he just all of a sudden was not dressing last year, and we found out it was knee surgery, MCL surgery. That doesn't help you as a freshman trying to.
No doubt. He's still, I watched him a lot on Thursday because I had that side of the football, and he's a tweener. There's no doubt about it. But I think ultimately, just his natural skill set because of what he did in high school. I think he's an edge guy. He doesn't necessarily look like an edge guy. He looks like a combination edge guy, inside guy, but he's not big enough to be an inside guy, which I know we say that about Heinisch, but Heinisch he's a Heinisch for crying out loud. Of course, he's a tackle. and he holds his own regardless what his weight is. But I think Cole Mullins ultimately his best position is on the edge. And but him and Sevillano, I think their time comes a lot more readily in 2026 than this year.
Next question from the second stringers. If you were the head coach, or in this case, if you were Jaywan Sider more appropriately, how would you divvy up running back responsibilities and playing time to keep the room engaged? Would you give Love Price all the playing time to ensure the best players on the field at all times and deal with potential portal consequences later?
Go ahead, Joe.
I think I would have those two still on the field as often as possible that you think is realistic. I mean, you want to keep other guys engaged, but at the same time, I mean, I guess they could jump in the portal early, but they also know those two guys are very likely gone after this year too. So they would definitely see those opportunities opening up. I think the important part would be how Sider continues to develop them. If if he's not developing the entire room and they don't feel like they're improving, if Keidron Young feels like he's, not getting the knowledge he needs to get on the field, then I think that would be probably the bigger issue for him. I think those guys are aware of who's ahead of them. And I also looked at, Penn State where Sider was last year as two kind of a similar situation with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Those guys both played over 500 snaps last year. And I think according to Pro Football Focus, the next most played running back was Corey Smith at 39 snaps. So I think that's probably more what we're heading for if his past history is any indication of here.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't
I think
know. We
Aeneas
don't.
will play
We
more.
don't know how good Corey Smith is, but
True.
Aeneas Williams is very good, and a more, especially as a blocker, a more well-rounded, complete back than at least what Jadarian Price was last year. So I think it
He's a
needs to
better
be
he's a better receiver than Jadarian Price
yeah,
too.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so I think it has to be a three-man rotation with the top two getting the bulk of the carries. And Sider needs to be a diplomat here. He needs to be, Jabron Payne, he did acknowledge that he's graduating at the end of this semester. So that could
Oh,
be a hint.
I mean, Jabron Payne will end up somewhere else. I
Right.
think.
So I'm saying it'll probably be after this semester if he's
Yeah.
leaving,
Yeah.
because he will have his degree.
Jabron,
I thought Keidron Young was very diplomatic the other day in handling questions about playing. And I hope that Sider has really reached him and said, look, man, and his comments about him the other day, were very complimentary of him. So, I mean, I hope he's in his head. It's like, look, dude, your time is coming. He preserved a year of eligibility last year, so he'll have three after this year.
yeah.
They got to keep him around. And whereas I think Payne, since he did indicate he was graduating after this semester, is probably gone
I mean, I think
after the
Payne
season.
would be gone if he found the right spot this right now. But it's great that he is going to graduate first because he needs that.
And again, that was a guy, Sider recruited him. He was going to Penn State until he found out he was going to get
Singleton.
Nicholas Singleton.
Then it didn't go so well for
Yeah,
Jabron, but
yeah.
yeah, one thing I really want to monitor is because it's the most he was asked this question no less than 5 times, Keidron Young, about being Notre Dame's short yardage back. He did not in any way.
He didn't flinch. He did he?
No, he didn't. I don't think he's going to be Notre Dame's short yardage back. I
He
don't think he's going to be. He said he didn't do it in high school. He said, I'll do anything they want me to do. He did not say, like, that's a role I want to go take. I think the short yardage back is Jeremiah Love.
I
And then
understand.
after that,
yes.
it's Jabron Payne and Aeneas Williams can do it too. It's like, I just think Keidron Young will one day be a heck of a running back to watch, but I don't think he's like, I think if Dylan McCullough was here, this is the best way to say it. With he had every role in the world. Remember, he had 8 roles and he told us about his 8 roles, and then there was a ninth role. And I don't think Keidron Young would win that one. And I don't have enough background information to say it, other than I've seen guys do it that weren't him, and he did not sound like that is his niche, getting his pads low and picking up a yard.
Well, he's not a wiggle guy in space. He's a
But
plow horse.
he
So
runs through arm tackles like crazy, though. That's something that's, yeah. I might be speaking out of turn. I think, well, Jeremiah Love is the short yardage back against Miami. They're
that's
not
fair.
bringing in Keidron Young when it's 4th and 1 at the 50-yard line.
No, that's
But
Yeah. I mean, the best short yardage run I've ever seen potentially was Jeremiah Love against Penn State with a bad knee last year.
that's true.
So we know he can can do it. And I agree. I mean, even Sider, I think when talking about Young said he's ready physically, but he's ready from the neck down, I think is
Neck
how you
down.
put it.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a immediate plan for him to get on the field, at least in the first few weeks.
Our final question is from Chris Koziak. Hello, distinguished gentlemen. I did not make that part up, guys. He did call us that. If Marcus Freeman called you and let you pick the segments for the media viewing periods of practice, what 20 minutes would you want to see and why? And let's try to make this fun, guys, and not say scrimmage. Let's find other portions of practice you guys have seen
All
over the
right,
years.
I'll throw out one 2 minute because Guduli was saying they're running 2 minute every day, and to a large degree, that's going to determine. Well, I don't know about that. That'll be a determining factor in choosing the quarterback, and so part of that 20 minutes, I'd like to say I don't think they do 2 minute for 20 minutes, but I'd like to see 2 minute. I'll let you guys chime in from there.
Yeah, if we're kind of taking out scrimmage, I mean, I really enjoy watching one-on-ones, and especially if we got access to, seeing what the quarterbacks were doing with the receivers and tight ends. But then also, I mean, I think sometimes even what's more enjoyable and interesting is just to see the linemen going at it and kind of seeing,
Yes.
you get a better look at some of the younger guys and also just who's kind of stepping up because sometimes in that scrimmage portion, it's hard to watch everything and you can watch the ball a little bit. Whereas in those one-on-ones, I'm like really kind of focusing on who's going at it and you can kind of hone in on who's doing what.
My favorite, I can think of a few of my favorite practice segments, and they're always the violent ones over the years where you get one on one. I mean, the famous one where JD Bertrand was just, we found out how much trash he can talk when he was not even yet a starter in that one against Quinn Carroll. But last year there was a drill where it was a goal line drill. Remember they had the giant pad in between the linebacker and the running back, and running back had the ball. You say go, you have to go around the pad. The linebacker has to meet you. That's when I realized Jeremiah Love was different because he ran over Jalen Sneed. Like Jalen Sneed didn't know the drill was live. And I thought to myself, holy cow, because Sneed can hit. I mean, when Sneed runs and hits, that's a Sneed thing, right? Run fast and go hit something.
Mhm.
It was fun to watch. I love those. And then I missed this one, a lot of it, because I was watching the Jeremiah Love drill. The other side of the field, this two spotting thing kills you when you're trying to write about practices. But
There's no
the other
doubt.
side of the field, you could hear Max Bulla compliment Aeneas Williams on his pass protection against the linebackers. And Max Bulla said after, he's like, I didn't even know who that kid was when he stood up my linebacker, like, because he's like the freshman on the team. So I think anytime you get a violent one like that where you can really hone in and see it is my favorite of
There
practice.
there may be some people thinking, well, if you want to watch both of them, why don't you just stand in between the two fields?
Yeah.
We would love to do that, but we are not allowed to stand between the two fields. We are only allowed on the perimeter. So you have to choose. Are you watching? Well, you can't even get to the opposite
No, no.
side. We're not allowed to go there either.
You
So you
do
have to
with
choose.
20-minute practice, you choose, and then 1 hour or 2 hours, you can kind of walk around
You
a
can
little
move
bit. But
around, but you can't go in between the fields, so you don't have that advantage. I think anything in the red zone would be
yeah, yeah.
enlightening, but to be more specific, goal line, because we're talking about D line. Are they ready? We're talking about an offensive line with a new starting interior offensive lineman, Sands Jagusa. Give me some goal line action. I'd like to see that as well.
Kyle McCarthy once absolutely murdered, I mean, just absolutely pile drive to running back. It was a bad choice of words there, so I'm going to keep this out. Absolutely destroyed a running back um, in a goal line situation, one of the first Brian Kelly practices, and the running back fumbled. And this is exactly 2 years pre concussions. They were still called getting dinged. And Kelly was like, get his ass off the field when he fumbled. He was like kind of like dazed and laying there. It's like you can't say that anymore. But when you see those collisions, that's what's fun about practice, man. Like that gets everybody's juices flowing when you see those. And whatever drill they were doing that day, where Rico Flores and Jaden Mickey got into it, I'd like to see more of that drill because apparently that makes people mad too. I like the anger. We don't normally see a lot of anger at
Yeah.
Priester. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
Oh, so yeah, we do miss Jaden Mickey at fall camp practices, actually. That's a good point.
That's true.
What were you going to say, T?
I was going to say also the old Chase Claypool destroying everybody in one-on-ones was
Ooh,
always fun.
Chase
That's just
could
not fair.
Chase could snap at any moment.
That is it for this edition of Irish Illustrated Insider. We'll be back Thursday, and we will have seen another 20-minute practice segment prior. Um, then one thing over the weekend, right? Something along those lines, and it
One
really
thing
slows
over the
down a little bit. I
weekend.
think we're going to be shut out of practices here. They'll be practicing without us. That's okay. Priester, I know somebody asked you on the board. Is there a chance you get that extra practice viewing thrown in?
That's not going to happen.
I don't think so either, because the key is it has to happen soon. They're certainly not going to do it when
Yeah,
you
it
get
would
later
have
in
to.
August.
It would probably have to happen this week.
Right, right.
And I don't know. I don't see that happening. And you know what? It's perfectly fine.
Yep. Instead, we'll just talk about it. It'll be fun. We'll keep talk about it, write about
We'll
it.
speculate about it
We'll opine and move our
inaccurately.
depth chart all over the place. Until Thursday, for Drew Medtalk and Tim Priester, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.